Hey guys, this is JP Fluellen with another episode of the Success Agent Podcast. And today we have Elizabeth Riley. She's been licensed for 15 years and has been with EXP since May of 2015 and has brought EXP to Texas when just 400 agents nationally. She's an icon 5 times over and has done over 20 million in production in 2019 as an individual agent. And she owns the Luxe Property Group, which is a group of 5 agents with their own businesses and come together collectively to market and collaborate in order to serve their clients on such a high level. Business is referral only, and we're going to dive into that today. And personally, she is a graduate from Texas A&M University and married for 17 years, and she has 4 children. So that is a huge resume. Busy. I can, at your house, I suppose, right?
Oh, it's absolutely crazy busy. Good morning. How are you?
Very good. So we're going to dive in a little bit into just kind of what is your story, like what led you to EXP, and then we're going to talk about teams a little bit and kind of the structuring teams, and then we're really going to dive into referral only because I know that is the golden goose if you can really crack the code on referral only. There's several philosophies out there. Do you ask for referrals or do you just do lots of, customer appreciation events? Do you, send out mailers? Do you have automated systems for that? I mean, we're going to go ahead and dive into that. So go ahead and tell us your story.
Sure. So I got licensed in Georgia. My husband was transferred there for work a number of years ago, and we owned rental properties. And so I was in the event and marketing consulting space, had no interest actually in real estate at all. And my CPA told us one day, looking at our numbers and the properties we owned, and said to both of us, one of you needs to get your license. And my husband said, well, I have the job and I have the insurance and I have the steady paycheck. Elizabeth, you get your license. And so I kind of went kicking and screaming. I really had no interest in it at all. And so I was in a couple's Bible study and a bunch of them were real estate agents. And I said, this is what I'm told. What do I do? And I actually went to Keller Williams at that time in 2004, 2005 timeframe. So because they would let me do it part-time, and I was really focused on that. And so I just started telling friends and people that knew me, hey, I've got my license if I ever can help you. It was super organic, very authentic, just a conversation. And a couple friends reached out and I realized quickly, oh my gosh, I love this. This is super fun. So I became a top producer in Atlanta, and then we were transferred to Austin, Texas in 2008. And when I moved here, it was funny because everybody said, are you getting your license in Texas? I said, yes. And they said, this is a horrible time to get in the business.
Right.
I said, well, actually, I just left a market that burst. I mean, Atlanta, when I left Atlanta, we were doing short sales and foreclosures, and I come to Austin and we tend to be pretty isolated from that kind of stuff. So did the same thing. At that point I had 1 child and I lived in a townhouse community, and I just knocked on doors to get to know my neighbors, not to solicit them, just to get to know who I lived with and introduce myself and not talk about real estate, but that conversation always came up. So from that point I had 44 contacts. And I would write letters to them, and I would just get in conversation and relationship with them. And I started building my business that way, and became a top producer in our market pretty quickly as well, and loved what I was doing. I think it was 2014. I had 650 agents in our office. I was number 1.
Wow.
And I, frankly, was burned out. I wasn't having fun anymore, and our broker, I remember saying, oh my gosh, you did great. What numbers are you going to do next year? And I said, I'm not going to do that again. I can't. It's going to kill me. It's for KW, and for me personally, it's God family business. And I was all business. God and family were nowhere to be found at that point. So it wasn't worth it for me. And my tribe, my crew in Atlanta, my friends and my, the people that I really built relationships with there, they had all recently gone over to EXP. So my sponsor was good friends with Glenn and knew him from the tech space way back when, and said, hey, our founder's going to be in Texas. Can you meet with them? I said, sure. I'm, happy to meet with anybody. And I met with Glenn. They weren't in Texas. There were 400 agents nationally. He was showing me the world. He was showing me the cloud. Anybody that knows me laughs because I am not techie at all. I totally didn't get the world. I didn't understand, the power behind it, but I loved him as a person and what his vision was. And he's just the most humble person ever. And, EXP just did an article on me, and really, I say people join people. So that's why I came to EXP. I came because I could finally do what I needed to do and go back to the basics, right? And not have to worry about, oh, well, you did these numbers last year. What are you going to do next year? And that pressure. I could go back to what I wanted to do and what made me enjoy the business. And I never in a million years, never knew that EXP would do what it's done. But it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride for me too. I've only been with EXP since 2018,
Yeah.
and it was just incredible. Like, to me, the energy is so different. Like, and it's weird because you're in the cloud, but you're still community,
Right.
and it's still an agent centric company, and yet you work from home, and that's the crazy part about it. It's like they've bridged the gap of the geographical issue, and yet you feel like I get more information with EXP than I got with any other brokerage that I was a part of before.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm more connected at this company than I ever was before. And again, I was a top producer. If I wasn't number one, I was always top 10. People knew who we were, but that culture and that community wasn't there. And, that year that I was so burnt out, I came over to EXP. In the first full year, we had 2,000 agents. And at the award ceremony, I ended up being number one nationally in the company. And when they called my name, I was clapping. It was really funny because a friend of mine, she tapped me on the shoulder and they're like, they just called your name. I said, there's no way, right? I was having fun. And I said, how could I have gone from, 650 agents to now number one in 2,000 agents? And what am I doing different, right? And then the following year, we had 5,000 agents and I was number one again. I was like, okay, my business has completely changed, increased, more than doubled, right? When I thought that wasn't possible before, taking the tools and just the collaboration and the connections that our company allows completely changed my business. I'm able to mastermind and network with, it's funny, I do some luxury here. And I'm like, oh, there's a luxury class, I'll go teach. I'm happy to share my knowledge, right? That's what we do.
Right.
And I go into this luxury class and it's Chuck and Doug out of Beverly Hills teaching the class. I'm like, oh, let me just sit my avatar down and learn from some of the masters that are really doing this. Can that change my business? Yes. I'm not competition to them, right? I'm not competition to, some of the icons in Virginia or Florida. We all share and help each other grow, makes us all better.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into a little bit of that. So when you're doubling your business and you're trying to continue to get this repeat and referral business, so just kind of set the stage for our audience, like how when you're cultivating those leads coming through, like what is your process in that? Because I think we tend to overthink real estate. Like we try to figure out, okay, how can I shortcut the process in order to get that next hot buyer and that hot seller? Like, give us a kind of an idea, like how your setup is on that.
So for me, it's pretty simple. I just treat my clients like I want to be treated. I try to treat each one of them like they're my one and only client, right? I'm very, very relational. I think with real estate, we all follow the shiny object. There's so much stuff that can be sold to us. And for me, I just got back to the basics. I write a lot of letters. I stay in touch with my database, right? My sphere is not that big, but yet they know me, they like me, they trust me. I'm in community with them. I'm not spewing that I'm a real estate agent, right? I'm very active in my community, in my kids' school, but I never want somebody to see me and say, oh my gosh, Run, there's Elizabeth Riley, she's going to talk about real estate. But I want them all to know what I'm doing, right? So I'm very deliberate in keeping in touch with them, very passive marketing. If you told me, which in fact I was told this, if I wanted to build my business and make it to the next level, I had to go knock on doors and cold call. That is not me. I'm not authentically going to be myself doing that, right? So I just write a lot of letters. I touch my database consistently every single month. I'm always mailing them something, not necessarily real estate related, but it always keeps them guessing what I'm going to be doing next time. And I'm always trying to make them smile. They're not going to keep my stuff. I just want to have an impact as it's going to the trash can, right?
Right, of course.
So I do that. I do an electronic newsletter through MailChimp, which is free, just so I can put our coming soons or our successes or the stats, real estate related. And our open rates are pretty high because we're not spamming them. We're giving them content that's useful, things to do in Austin, things like that. And then I'm staying in relationship with them as far as going to coffee or tea with them. I used to do lunches. Lunches take a lot more time, right? And they can be a lot more expensive. And so if you have a coffee meeting for an hour, I'm really just, if I invited you to coffee as my client, I would just be talking to you and just staying in relationship. I never talk about real estate. It always comes up, but I'm just staying in touch with my people. And so it's just being consistent, right? If, I teach on this a lot. I teach on marketing to your sphere, and NAR statistics show that 83% of agents do not stay in touch with their clients. So that's a huge opportunity for people. So if you're just even reaching out to them once a month, it's great. I don't do a ton of client appreciation events. That's something I want to implement. Time is just my challenge right now with that. It takes a lot of time and planning and coordinating, and you've got 4 kids too. You understand kind of trying to figure out and maneuver schedules per week. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done to leverage, so we do 4 customer appreciation parties every year. So we do ones that are like really easy. So like an easy one we do is a movie premiere.
Yep.
So people really, they want to go to the movies anyways. And so we usually try to negotiate a deal with the theater and get a big movie that's coming out, and we get access to it the day before. So it adds kind of that, there's nobody else is doing this. And so it's like, well, you only get one opportunity to see it before it comes out. And so people will come out to those. And then we usually I'm really big on marketing, as you can probably tell. Like I have the hats and the shirts and stuff. And so I and we're a super small community. We're only 58,000 people.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so standing out is huge, and trying to make an impact fast. And so it was a big disruptor when I started my team with EXP, because nobody has done teams to the scale that I've done it in this town ever. And so it was interesting. We ruffled a lot of feathers. They're like, they're acting like a brokerage and all this crazy stuff. It was pretty disruptive. And then we did this movie premiere. Like I had just switched over, and we got access to Avengers Endgame the night before it came out. And I mean, we sold out in like a week. And so we did this big movie premiere. Next thing you know, like people are talking about it all over Cheyenne and everything. And it was pretty crazy. And but those were really easy because you just do the Eventbrite page, and then you just put them on Facebook. You get all of your team to share it everywhere. Next thing you know, you're getting comments and likes and everything. And then we had this really regimented system where we just did like a video every week up until the event. And we had sponsors and all this kind of stuff to sponsor it. And usually if you have some sort of charitable component to it, then it makes it pretty easy for people to get behind.
Right.
And
I've done something a little bit differently. I mean, it's hard to get a bunch of people that agree on one movie, right? And it's funny because, as you probably do, we talk to a lot of people. And so I'm extroverted when I need to be or want to be, but really a lot of times I don't want to necessarily talk to people all the time. I hate talking on the phone, things like that. So what we did is we picked a movie. We have movie houses here that you can have dinner and movie there.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So we picked one of those places, and they had a restaurant bar area at the front. And I ordered appetizers and drinks and popcorns and things like that. But a week before, I sent everybody out times and the movies. So there was like a 4 o'clock, a 5 o'clock, an 8 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, whatever, and all these different movies, and they could pick what movie they wanted to go to. And so they would come and kind of have a little bit of a happy hour with me and just say, hey, a few words, have some snacks, whatever. Here's your movie tickets. Here's your popcorn. Now go to your movie. And so then it turned into kind of like a date for them. And they didn't have to sit there and mix and mingle with me. And I didn't have to try and entertain, a couple hundred people at a movie, and I didn't know if everybody would like the movie. And so it worked well for me, and it was a lot less expensive.
Sure.
Um, so I might do something like that again, but I like the premiere because there is that element of I want to see it first and that exclusivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and for us, it was really easy because I didn't have to speak to every single person individually. I was in a band for 7 years. And so I have all the equipment to do I had a PA system set up and a mic and everything. And I stood in front of the whole audience and kind of did a little spiel. And then we had some giveaways and stuff like that. And we had like a movie booth or a picture booth, and we just took photos of people as they were coming in and kind of made it a big deal.
That's fun.
And it was a lot of fun. We, you know, and your setup is 30 minutes. You're kind of hanging out for about an hour, and then the movie starts, and then it's over.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was really good. So we're doing that again this year. We're doing 2 more because I think they're very, you know, we try to pick movies that are pretty big nationally that people can get behind. Some of them are tough. So we try to make sure, like usually the ones that come out in May and then the ones that come out in December are usually the big ones, you know, whether it's because like we did Star Wars, we did Avengers. And so we're doing another Avenger-ish movie in May. And then we're not sure what we're going to do in December because Star Wars is pretty much over. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do next.
Well, Top Gun comes out pretty soon too, right?
Oh yeah, Top Gun. I forgot about that one. That one's going to be big.
Yeah, that'd be a big one.
Yeah. And then we do like a kind of some smaller ones. We do a barbecue just at a park and usually have some like yard games and stuff set up. And then we're going to do a Halloween party, a big, huge Halloween party at an old downtown building that we have here. So that should be a lot of fun. And so we try to make them, you know, scalable enough to where it's repeatable. So we have these little binders that has all the information, like what food we ordered, what was our budget, you know, kind of gives us an idea of like how much these events cost and what, you know, how much people show up. We don't really look at it as like a ROI per se, as just more of a community event.
Well, it's just loving on your people, you know,
Yeah.
and on a bigger scale. And that's one of the things I'm going to implement more on a consistent basis. We do some events here and there, but they haven't been consistent. And it's just loving on your people, you know, showing them that you appreciate them. I mean, I love being invited to stuff, right? I love getting mail. I love little surprises left on my door. So, you know, I love to do that for others as well.
So so something that you might want to think about, because we were talking before the show about systems.
Yeah.
So there's a company called Client Giant. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they will automate those little gifts for you and personalize it to your people.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it comes right in the mail, and it's like, oh, you know, and they do these quarterly gifts. So it's usually something in the spring, summer, fall, and then usually like something Christmas-ish. And
Love that. Yeah, that's a lot of time.
And it's automated. So it's $10 a month per client, and you know it's automated, it's easy, and you don't have to, it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of a setup. So that way you can still, so it still feels personal because it's personal to them, and it's unbranded, so it's not like you're trying to, you know, figure out a way to promote yourself, whereas it's more like they feel like you've actually taken time to, you know, make sure it's personalized to them. So
that's cool. I will check that one out.
Yeah.
I have fun geeking out and coming up with silly little things. And so,
right.
And a lot of times I'll, you know, send things to their kids.
Sure.
You know, and they are like, oh my gosh, you know, you sent something. The kids were so excited. I get more responses on things like that. But it's just, you know, I understand, and it's how I respond. And it's not for everybody, but it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to try to figure out like how to have this problem and how you're going to solve it and figure out what's going to get the best repeat and referral business for sure. So let's dive in a little bit into your dynamics with your group, with the luxury group. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I've heard in some ways it can be problematic, in some ways it can be great. it just really depends on, because I've done similar systems kind of like that, but we didn't really do like just one branding individual agents, because we couldn't really agree upon a lot of things. And then it was like, okay, well, let's just make a team then. And then it was like, well, then we ended up splitting our business 3 ways, which ended up not really working out so hot.
Yeah.
And so let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you've just described. It's been a lot of trial and error, right? Because this wasn't something that I had done or had knowledge, and I really didn't want a formal team for a number of reasons. Selfishly, I didn't want to be boss. You know, I mean, I've got my family and Team Riley that I have to focus on. I didn't want to have to be boss for a group or be responsible for their business, right? What if I didn't have a lot of leads coming in? And I just feel really guilty about that kind of stuff. So that model doesn't really work for me. When I left KW, I had a number of people that are, again, friends, and they were going to go wherever I went. And they wanted me, in fact, before I found EXP, they wanted me to start my own brokerage because I knew the other models in our market, but that I wouldn't have gone to any of those models. You know, I would have just stayed at KW. So they wanted me to start my own brokerage, start my own team. The brokerage thing, again, I didn't want to be boss. I didn't want the expense, the headache. I wanted to stay away from that. So what we did is I own Luxe Property Group. And I said, well, what if we have a non-team team? So it's kind of a joke. And so I had a number of agents that were friends of mine. We're all friends. And again, it was trial and error. Okay, how should we structure this? They're all going to have individual caps. They're individual agents within the company. I did that for a number of reasons. First of all, again, they're responsible for their business. But within EXP, then I would be able to take advantage of full rev share and full stock. And for me, the big draw to this company was the stock. Rev share was never anything that I was real interested in. That just organically happened. But the stock was a big component for me. And so I didn't want to have to dilute that by having, you know, a team member, right? So we, the five of us, well, there were more, we've kind of evolved over time, but originally we're like, okay, does everybody want to, you know, split expenses? We're like, okay, great. And then that worked for a while until it didn't work, until somebody was like, well, you're doing more business and you have more people and your cost is less and my cost, you know what I mean? And that's not really fair. And well, you have all the listings and I just work buyers. Why would we pay for signs? And I'm like, okay, so that's not going to work. And then we were like, well, what if everybody puts in a percentage into a marketing budget up to a certain amount? You'll never pay more than, I don't know what the number was, $1,500 a year or something, right? Again, we had the same conversation. Well, that's not fair because I don't do as much business. And so it came to okay, well, what's the right solution? So now what we're doing is we put together a marketing plan. If somebody wants to opt in that month, great, they can opt in. They pay for their own stuff. They pay for their own mailings, things like that. Usually I'll pay for the designer or whatever we need to do. If it's anything community related that has to do with the brand, like I did a big banner for the school that has all of our names on it, I usually pay for all of that because it's my brand I'm promoting and I get behind the brand. When I'm marketing myself, I don't market myself, I market the team. In the 4 agents, they actually market themselves with Luxe Property Group. They don't have the, I don't want to say buy-in, but they don't have the investment and I'm not talking about financially, but they don't have the investment in the brand that I do. Right? It's my reputation is behind that brand. So I want to make sure I go above and beyond to make sure the brand is well represented. So it's been kind of a trial and error thing. Some things work really well, some don't. But what I do love is we still work like a team. We still meet every Monday for accountability, for collaboration. Hey, what's going on this week? What else can I help? What can we help with? Right? We look bigger in our market. Austin has a ton of little boutique brokerages. And so if I'm going up against, you know, one of the teams here, not with EXP, but like a small brokerage, and they're like, well, they have all these resources and all these people to help, but it's just you. I can overcome that objection because I'm like, no, we've got a team of us, right? So there's a couple of reasons. It's perception more than anything, but quite frankly, they're friends that I love being around and being in business with anyway. So we're just failing forward, right? There's no there's no perfect combination.
Right.
Sometimes we always just, EXP talks about being agile. That's one of our core values. We have to do that in our business every day because there's no perfect recipe for whatever we're trying to do. Some of the big teams, things like you're doing with the big structures, I think that makes sense when you have formal team members. With us, it's a little bit different. So we're just, taking day by day. It works for us for now.
Yeah, it seems like it's a challenge with the constant reinvention of how you work with everyone so that it's still a unified brand, but yet it's almost like a hybrid of traditional and teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see where that there's some challenges there. But I think maybe if you just go to a flat fee per month and just call it you don't want to call it an office fee because we have, EXPs against office fees, but I mean, something along those lines to where it's.
Yeah, we've tried that too. And then they don't pay splits to me. The only splits that we pay. Yeah. So all my production is my production. All their production is their production.
And then you get rev share off of those then?
Exactly. And only splits we pay are if there's a referral, right?
Sure.
So if I have a sign call or I have an agent or a buyer or something that I can't work, I'll refer it to one of them first. And we just pay referral fees back and forth. It just makes it easy.
Sure. It sounds like you're trying to avoid the inevitable.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
I mean, because I did that too. I did the exact same thing you're doing. Like I tried to do the join my team and you can have your leads or your leads. And then if it's one of my leads, then, you pay a split on those because it's a referral. And then it started to get really muddy because then it was all this tracking that I had to try to do and different systems I had to try to put in place. And then eventually I got to a point where I'm just like, I just need to make this easy for me, easy to track, easy for, I don't want to have to, wake up at night. Cause then what was happening is they were doing their own marketing. And then I would also give away leads. And in our market, because we're so small, they would say, oh, well, Joe Smith, he was a lead that I worked a year ago that came through. And then, then it came through on one of your marketings. And I'm like, okay. And so then it got in this real muddy area of like, well, what do you do when they said that they worked it? And then, and then it comes down to like whose actions actually got you to get them.
Who's securing cause? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't experienced that all that much. That, three of us live in the same community area and our kids all go to the same school. So we have a lot of same friends and we all market similarly. And so we've just had to sit down with our list and say, okay, who has this one? And just, we kind of divide and conquer that way. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those, I'm never going to let money come in the middle of a relationship. So there's many times where I'll step out or I'm like, okay, yes, that's yours. My volume's just a lot bigger than theirs anyway. And so it's like, I'm not going to fight over that. So, more times out of, it's not always advantageous for me, but that's okay. As long as I have consistency and community and everybody's getting along and doing well, that's a win for me.
Right. Absolutely. And so in your market, is buyer leads or buyers agents and sellers agents, is that common out there?
Yes. Listing agents and buyers agents. Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, I think if with having 4 kids, you can relate to this, if you can leverage your buyer side of your business, that's huge.
Yeah.
In our market, unfortunately, we just don't have the volume to have just buyers agents and sellers agents. And so everybody's got to be just a realtor. And, so.
I do both. I mean, everybody can do both. I don't ever represent the same transaction on both sides. But I know people that are just listing agents and just buyers agents. And I used to be a buyer's agent. When I was in Georgia, I love buyers. I love buyers. Not that I don't love them now, but they are just, it's a different animal. And especially we have no inventory here. So it's really, really challenging. I mean, I don't know how your market is, but we're getting multiple offers. I had a buyer just lose out on 32 multiple offers.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. I mean, now the good news was they weren't in love with that house and
Sure.
that was the first one, but we lost out on a couple of them and we finally had to find them off market, which is great. and then you're the hero and things like that. Buyers are a lot of time. So I have to kind of spread that out a little bit. And a lot of, many times I'll just refer them out just because I know it might take too much time, or it's in an area that I'm not as knowledgeable, or I'm really listing heavy or things like that. But yeah, we have people that just do buyer's agents, just do listing agents. I'm a hybrid.
Gotcha. So now that you mention off market, let's dive into that a little bit, because we're in the same spot. Our normal average is we usually sell about 380 to 460 homes a month here.
Okay.
And now we're down to, we have like 280 listings total for our entire market.
Wow.
Nuts. So let's talk about off market. Like, what's your strategy on that?
Well, first of all, it's networking. I tell people all the time, buyers and sellers, clients are going to come and go. But you need to be a great agent in your market and have a good relationship, because I know there's agents that'll come across my desk and I'm like, I've had a horrible situation with them. I'm not working with them again. I know it's going to be challenging. I don't ever want to be that agent, right? I want to be an agent that always comes from contribution and finding solutions. And so a lot of times my relationships will get me in the door on some properties. In Austin, and with NAR making those changes, this is all going to change. And I think everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen, but we have different groups that we can be members of. So for example, I'm a member of a couple luxury groups, but you have to do a certain number of production. You have to have properties that are above, one of the groups, none of the properties can be marketed or asked for that aren't above $1 million, right? And so when I have my clients that are $1 million and above, I'm going there first, because Texas is non-disclosure. First of all, a lot of the higher end buyers and sellers don't necessarily, because our taxes are so high, they don't necessarily want to disclose what the property sold for. So if it's off market, it's never an MLS. They don't have any of that data. And so I go to those a lot. And then we have some of the other groups that I'm a member of that, again, it's because of my reputation and my production in the marketplace that I'm able to be a part of these. And so we just start networking out there going, okay, I have a buyer need. This is what I'm looking for. Who will sell something off market? Currently right now I have 4 that are off market that I'm under contract for, which is awesome for my clients, because we're avoiding the multiple offer situations. So it's just, that's, obviously networking with our EXP community first. And I just branch out to every avenue that I can to see what's available. And I put them in front of my clients. And so it also puts me, I just received 2 clients that were working with Redfin agents. Nothing against Redfin, but they weren't hungry. They weren't, and maybe it's because, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they're employees, but they weren't working for it. They didn't have those connections. They didn't have those networks. I'm bringing them more properties off market, and they're like, okay, these aren't a fit. However, we see that you have access to all this stuff. Let's narrow it down. So it's just really conversations, picking up the phone, calling agents, sending texts saying, hey, John, hope you're well. Who cares if they're at our brokerage or not? I don't care. It's broker blind for me. Hey, John, what do you have over here? I know you work that area a lot. And he's like, well, I don't have anything here, but call this person. And I get people calling me all the time. If there's somebody looking in Cat Mountain or Northwest Hills, I'm tagged all the time. Hey, Elizabeth, what do you know? So that just builds on itself, and it puts us in an advantage in a market like this.
Nice. Yeah, I wish we had some more of those communities here, because we just don't have the kind of volume or the types of properties. I think we have like maybe 1% of our population is luxury.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tight in that regard. Our biggest issue right now is just the first-time home buyer price ranges. It's like, if it's off market, it's already sold, and that's what's really tough. So
my first-time home buyers are really challenged right now, because we have a ton of cash investors coming to Austin. Austin is a huge hotspot. I mean, you think about it, we have university, right? We have University of Texas. We have St. Edwards. We've got some great education systems here. We're the capital of Texas.
Right.
We've got South by Southwest was just canceled, but we've got the music scene that's huge here. Mm-hmm. We've now got the tech space. So we're not reliant on one industry. we're kind of a hodgepodge of all these different industries that are doing really well. And we're always top 10 places for Austin, places to move, places to live. But it's pushing everybody out because our property taxes are very high, even though we don't have state income tax, but our property taxes are kind of sticker shock for people that are moving into state.
Sure.
But they're pushing out, and my first time home buyers can't compete because these investors are coming in with cash, buying as is, no option period, like making it so easy for the sellers. And so we're just having to, really put that human element into our offers, right? We're having to do videos to the sellers. We're doing letters to the sellers. We're doing all these things to let them know, yeah, you could sell to this investor, but look at the memories you have in this home. This is what this person wants to do and raise their children and things like that. We're just having a hard time at the price points, and you can't get into the city without, right now, easy 5 to 10 offers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Your market's a lot like ours in the sense that we're the capital as well for Wyoming. We're an hour and a half north of Denver. So people are getting pushed out of Denver and they're continuing to move towards us. The other advantage is we have low state real estate taxes, less than 1% for real estate taxes here. And then we have Microsoft has data centers here. We have NOAA, which is like atmospheric something or other that's for weather. They have a data center here for weather data. And then we have a couple of distribution centers, and then Taco John's is their corporate headquarters here. And then we have a couple of online retailers here. What is it? I can't think of it right now, but
Frontier Days, right?
Well, we have Frontier Days, of course, and that always helps.
I remember as a kid going to Frontier Days, so that's when you say Cheyenne, that's what I always think of.
Right, yeah, and that's always a good time. And then we've got some breweries that are popping up all over here. So there's a beer company called Blacktooth that just opened up their warehouse here. And so we've got, and then we've got a bunch of microbreweries here too. And so a lot of companies are looking at Cheyenne because the weather is pretty stable in terms of it doesn't get too super cold and it doesn't get super hot. And so it works really well for like data centers and stuff like that. Because the energy costs and stuff like that are pretty low. And then of course, state employees and all that stuff really helps out a lot too. So, and everybody's getting priced out of Colorado.
Yeah.
And they're like the same thing, 5 offers on every deal. If it's within, high 2s, low 3s, it's, it's crazy. Wow. And we have a lot of flippers that are moving up into our area too from Colorado and paying cash for everything in those price ranges as well. So we kind of running into the same issues.
Right.
And so it's very, very interesting. And I'm also on the MLS board here. And so we're trying to figure out this whole clear cooperation situation as well. And what's our challenge is just that it's become really muddy in terms of like what exactly is the system and process to make sure that everyone's following these guidelines. And as of right now, we've come to the agreement that each office is just going to do it their own way and just figure it out, because I think it's just, it's just like a real estate transaction. It's not cookie cutter. There's so many different little, micro things to the transaction that can cause it to be like, you can't just say you can't do this because you don't know their situation. Or like you're saying, like some of these people don't want their stuff out there.
Right.
And so it makes that tough because and so a lot of resolutions is office exclusive for everything, just don't put it out there.
Right. Well, the cool thing is we're one office, we're national. So that gives us an advantage.
Right. Because we can be like, yeah, we'll just hold them all in house and then we'll get a buyer.
Yeah.
I mean, Cheyenne EXP is growing. We probably add, 5 or 6 agents every year.
That's awesome.
On a consistent basis. And so, we'll be at 100 agents in here in the next couple of years, just for Cheyenne, and which is crazy because the next biggest office in our market right now is like 90 agents.
Wow.
And it's a model that people can get behind because it's just more to it than just selling real estate.
Oh, it's a no-brainer for me. Like, I didn't understand what I was walking into, but I look back, hindsight's 2020. It's amazing. I mean, the tools that we have. I mean, I always say it's drinking out of a fire hose, but at least you have all those options. You have all these options to go whatever direction you want to go, right? Whether you want to take advantage of the lead generating systems, which I don't, because my business is very different. But the leads that come in on KV Core for me, I just refer those out to my agents that are newer, or I'm like, look, practice on these. If you convert it, great. It's an honor system. Pay me a referral fee. If you don't, at least you have somebody in your database. Work on them. And but there's so many different things that we have here that's just made me be able to work smarter, not harder. And so I'm not running around with my hair on fire all the time like I was before. So my business is stronger than it ever was. I'm much calmer, and it's a fun place to be. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Elizabeth, I really appreciate all of your time this morning. I know it's early, and I know that your mornings are already busy, but thank you for taking time out today to be on our podcast. We really appreciate it. And if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to join your team or learn more about EXP, how can they get a hold of you?
They can call me, 512-658-0045 is my cell. Luxe Property Group is my team name. So it's www.luxepg.com, or elizabeth@luxepg.com is my email. So I would love to help anybody with questions in Austin or EXP and around the surrounding areas.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching and listening. All the devices were out there on Stitcher and iTunes and wherever podcasts are listened to. So thanks again for joining another episode of the Success Agent Podcast.